So here's the Kames Lassie's strathspey. The first measure goes like this. I'm going to do this really slow. So we've got 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1. That's the first measure. Second measure, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1. Has a paradiddle at the end there. The fourth measure of the first part, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. It's the same as the first measure, minus the flam. And the fourth measure, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4. So that whole first part, really slow, sounds like this. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4. Second part, a little trickier. It's got some flam drags and some cheeses in the first measure. So first measure is 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So to break that down, it's 1 triplet, and then you have 2 triplet. Beat 3 is a flam with a diddle on it. Trip, so it's 3 trip like that. So that first measure is 1 triplet, 2 triplet, cheese, 3 let. Second measure, paradiddle. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4. It's just paradiddle, flam tap, and then a flam, and then singles. Third measure is the same as the first. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And then fourth measure is the same as the ending of the fourth measure on the first part. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. And just keep in mind, the second part, the ending that I just played, there's 2 eighth notes on beat 4. Those 2 eighth notes only happen on the repeat. So the first time you go through the second part, the first ending sounds like this. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. When you repeat it for the second time and go into the reel after that, that fourth measure sounds like this. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4, and 1. So it kind of sets up the real pulse. So, the whole strathspey, or I should say the whole second part of the strathspey, slow. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4, and 1. The eighth notes happen a little faster though. So the whole strathspey is, I'm going to play it with the music. Ignore that, it wasn't right.